Remember when I said no one was going to care about the Olympics? Well, it wasn't exactly the boldest claim because I knew how I had felt about it. And I knew how the media buzz was about it. There were no major storylines. There was no Michael Phelps to care about. There were no, stunning, storylines of things to overcome, at least from the United States. In the United States, what we got were news articles about the female soccer team, the women's soccer team kneeling before the game. We got stories of the NBA, the woke NBA men's team kneeling and having, their political statements and them and LeBron James's agency being mad that they wouldn't let them protest on the award ceremonies. That's what we got in the United States. So nobody wanted to watch it. Who wants to watch that crap? Who wants to watch some political garbage, when we could just watch the news? And as predicted, Olympics TV viewers dropped to 33-year low. And wait till you see the spin. The spin on this is hilarious. Did you watch the opening ceremony of the Tokyo Olympics? No? Well, you weren't alone. Just 16.7 million Americans. By the way, by any other measure, that's a pretty big amount, I will say. Tune in to NBC's broadcast of the ceremony, the smallest U.S. television audience to watch the event in the past 33 years, according to preliminary data from Comcast. Friday's audience reflects a steep drop, despite difficult comparisons with previous opening ceremonies when viewers had fewer streaming options, where it is reported. The Tokyo Opener TV audience declined 37% from 2016, when 26.5 million people watched the Rio de Janeiro games, which also sucked, and 59% from 2012, when 40.7 million people watched the London ceremony. There's something in common with Hollywood, the award ceremonies, and things of this nature. There's just something in common with their declining viewership and the declining viewership of the Olympics. Even though the stadium where this opening ceremony took place was built to hold tens of thousands of people, just 950 attended amid the coof. But NBC Sports says the online audience grew. The streaming audience on NBCOlympics.com and the NBC Sports app rose 72% over the opener of 2016 and 76% over the ceremony of Pyeongchang Olympics. With approximately 17 million viewers, the opening ceremony delivered a multi-platform dominant audience and a vastly different media landscape from 5 years ago. NBC said it was the most unique opening ceremony ever, designed to meet the moment of global unity. And the network noted that the ceremony was the second most watched standalone primetime entertainment telecast since the Super Bowl. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That there was, the NBC plans to air an unprecedented 7,000 hours of Olympics coverage across multiple television networks and Peacock, its new streaming service. Now you have the USA men's basketball team losing to France. The first time Team USA has lost in 20 years. NBC has 33-year low viewership for Tokyo Olympics opening ceremony. Not a happy benchmark. Now, again, some of this is offset by streaming services. Sorry, I'm talking a lot today. The TV audience dropped 37%. Now, what we should see is an adjusted rate. We should see an adjusted, take the audience numbers, put them together, because a lot of people, I just have one of those HD, those sticky wall antennas to get local television. So that would include technically ABC, and I didn't watch it. I do have streaming services, which also aired it, I'm sure. Hulu or somebody else probably aired it, but I didn't watch it on there either. So there is absolutely a drop in viewership. Now, the time zones, that is something. The time zone differential is a definite issue. A lot of the events are taking place while we're asleep. Forbes Olympic ratings fell sharply. NBC says 17 million watched the opening ceremony. But you see a lot of people saying, because they can't figure out how to actually watch them. There's a paywall on a streaming subscription for almost every event. The only thing that's free are the 2-minute highlights. They're over-monetized them. They're greedy. They're desperate. I'm watching baseball, but the title says rugby. But you can see, and then that's because we are nauseated by a super spreader event. Taking to the streets for, what's his name, to get some Nikes, though. That's not a super spreader event. Have vowed not to watch. It's a country forcing their citizens to be in proximity to a deadly variant. Athletes refusing to poke. A world event where those of the world don't give a dang about the world. There's actually some support for that. I didn't think that there would be people kind of on the far left that would have ideological reasons for not watching the Olympics, other than how it drains the country that it hosts it. Between the time differences and how convoluted NBC has made trying to watch the games across so many channels, streaming services, and online live streams, I'm not surprised in the least. I'm actively trying to watch as much as I can, and even I'm having problems. So you have NBC bungling the streaming service, and then you have people tuning out for not wanting to get, political. You can see here, Trump says woke politics contributed to U.S. Olympians' soccer upset at the Olympics. Probably not, as the U.S. women's soccer team knelt before a lot of games that they didn't lose. But it's funny to see teams getting political. You got to focus on playing the game, not about making political statements. And that's what they did. You see Olympic failure. Ingram sounds off on wokeism polluting formally unifying event. The Tokyo Games feature an overload of Olympians who think we somehow care about their political views. Laura Ingram laid out what she called the Olympic failure of this year's Tokyo Friday on the Ingram Angle. The far left's woke doctrine has infected yet another aspect of American, and in this case, global life, she said. We had obscene and unnecessary COOF rules, even for healthy young athletes leading up to the opening ceremony. A ban on most spectators and an overload of Olympians who think we somehow care about their political views. Come on, there will be great performances, no doubt. But how boring is the lead-up, she remarked. This new Olympic experience, she said, lies in stark contrast to the collective memories of past Olympics, naming U.S. upsets of the Soviet hockey team in the 80s, the mesmerizing talent of the Baltimore native swimmer Michael Phelps, and the gymnastic performance of Columbus, Ohio native Simone Biles at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympiad. Whether it was President Reagan opening the 84 Olympics, Bill Clinton in 96 in Atlanta, we rallied because we loved our country and we loved our athletes. And for a few weeks, we put aside our differences and pretty much everything else. But today, things are different, she lamented. Now there are millions of Americans disgusted by the U.S. women's soccer team, not because they lost to Sweden, but because they used the international stage to insult our nation. That isn't what the Olympics is about. And I don't disagree with that. You have this situation where they essentially forced politics into an event that, while you can make stretch arguments that there's always like a political underlying event, stuff with the Olympics, especially in the early days, I think you'd be hard pressed to find like John Q. Public, caring about that. It's not just the fact that Olympians have taken the opportunity to use their voice to speak about political issues. It's that this is the only coverage we're getting. If you search Olympics, you get stuff like this. Articles of talking about wokeism and politics and biological males competing in weightlifting events and how the U.S. soccer team kneeled. That's what the media is covering too. So, including myself, we bear some responsibility in this. She said Ingram went on to note the International Olympics Committee, now led by the 76 West German foil gold medalist Thomas Bach, used to prohibit public protests at the games. But no longer, the host said, meaning we're going to get a lot more, not less, of what we don't want to see. She went on to describe the absurdity of the IOC promulgated by allowing biological male athletes to compete against women's events. Yeah, again, you're talking about one competitor out of thousands, but this is the competitor that gets the headlines. It's not Michael Phelps' freakish athletic ability. It's whether or not it's another avenue that we can have the same political divisive topic or divisive conversation that people don't want. They just want to turn off, their brains and watch some amazing figure skating, or I suppose that's not at the Summer Olympics, but, some amazing skateboarding or javelining or running or baseball or basketball. They don't want to have these political conversations, so they just tune out. And that's what happened to the Oscars, the Grammys, and now the Olympics. Get woke, go broke. That's all I can say. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.